All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Moms Making Money Show. This episode is being recorded live inside of my Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Facebook group. It will be also posted video format on YouTube. You can keep an eye out for more episodes showing up over there as I record them live for the girls over in my Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise group. Feel free to join that if you are interested. We're over there on Facebook. And we're going to just dive in today. I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about my journey as an entrepreneur, how I thought I was invincible, and that I was immune from burnout because I had hustled and hustled and hustled so hard as an employee before, and how burnout completely crept up on me and kicked my ass. So let's start from the beginning. So I took a year off from all business. And when I retired from my corporate job, which was very masculine, very hustle, very, it was construction, project management. I was the operations manager, all of that stuff, right? I took a break for a whole year being the mom of a toddler and a newborn. It was something different for me. And during that time, I experienced what I call an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was now that I wasn't Amie, the project manager, or Amie, the operations manager, or Amie who worked for the boss. Or I was like, I knew my purpose now was to raise this super cute, amazing baby. I knew that my purpose was to do all these things now in a different way. But I just felt, I felt kind of lost. I felt like, and I don't mean so people say, oh, she's lost or he's lost or, feeling lost is like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, you guys. And I felt shame around this, and probably why I didn't share it with a lot of people. I had a mentor. I worked in 2017 very closely with Sarah Dan, who I, still think is wonderful. And she really, really did help me kind of evolve and figure out a lot of stuff around business and some confidence, and she just kind of helped me through that hump in life and helped me get through the other side of that. And I worked with her in a mastermind setting and took a bunch of courses and had some one-on-one calls with her, quite a few one-on-one calls with her. And that really helped me. So I wanted to just make sure I gave a shout out there. The next thing I decided to do is I only knew business from a corporate hustle, type of perspective. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I was all about doing. One of the things that when I made a list of my top qualities, and I put, I'm a doer. I don't procrastinate. I have a high sense of urgency, and I take action quickly. And while that does serve me well in a lot of areas, I got myself into this rhythm of go, 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 without actually taking this time to stop and pause and celebrate those wins. I would share the wins with my mentors, would share the wins with my biz besties and my husband, yay, I just got this, or yay, I had, one time I had the first time I had a $17,000 month, or when I sold out my first retreat, right? I opened up a few spots and took an amazing group of women to Cabo. I don't even know what I was thinking, that I had my first VIP weekend retreat internationally, but it totally worked. And it was an amazing experience. And then follow that up the very next month, I had a $17,000 month in sales. And I didn't celebrate that. I was just like, okay, because in business, in construction, it's oh, you closed a contract. Cool. Awesome. Maybe the extent of the celebration is going out and having beers with your coworkers after, yay, we got the contract. Yay. Now we have to go do all the work, and we have to make sure we do it safely. We don't screw it up. And, we get all, it was just on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And that's kind of how I have been running my business throughout, since the beginning of 2018 until maybe a couple months ago. And it was just really hard for me to actually say, I'm going to celebrate this and actually and it doesn't have to be like a monetary celebration. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to go buy a new car. It doesn't have to be any of those things, right? It just has to be something meaningful for you, something where you're like, yeah, girl, you did this, you got it. Like, so when, now when I'm doing a launch or something, I set my sights at something that is going to really make me feel good. It's really going to make me feel like a reward, but I'm also no longer going to like punish myself along the way. So one of the reasons I say kind of punish myself is I was working so hard that I kind of let everything else kind of fall by the wayside. I didn't take the time to do those celebrations. I wasn't doing anything fun for myself. Like, yeah, I would take the kids to the zoo or SeaWorld or Disneyland or Legoland or all the places. And that was something fun that we did together. But I wasn't doing anything fun just for myself, right? If that makes sense. I was like working and then with the kids, working, then family, work, family, work, family. And even going to the movies, it's like, all right, we're going to go see Toy Story 4. And don't get me wrong, I love cartoons. So that wasn't so bad. It's just that I didn't do anything alone. I didn't do anything by myself. Like I had a conversation with Nicole and Kelly, who many of you know are like the people who I speak with every day. They are my biz besties and they are amazing. And I made a comment one time, like, I've never gone into a bar and ordered a drink by myself. I've never actually even drank by myself. And I'm not saying that as a, like, I should be going out and drinking because, right, drinking is not really my thing, but there was a time that it was, but I was I just wasn't that person. And so, I started to becoming an entrepreneur, especially having my first kind of quote unquote side hustle, even though it was successful, coming from an MLM, that helped me really see the value in personal growth, personal development, and I've grown so much. I've utilized so many personal growth resources, personal development resources, everything from oracle cards to the compound effect to you are a badass to anything Jim Rohn, Rachel Hollis. Like I always, people sometimes will post on, their pages and they'll ask a question. If you were the, entrepreneurial child of two top entrepreneurs, who would it be? And some people are like, oh, Tony Robbins and Marie Forleo, or Tony Robbins and Oprah. For me, it's Rachel Hollis and Jim Rohn. Okay. So, do with that information what you will, but for me, it's Rachel Hollis and Jim Rohn. Like if I was the entrepreneurial child of any two amazing entrepreneurs right now, it would be them. So maybe that's something you can ask yourself is if your parents in the entrepreneurial world were, famous entrepreneurs, top entrepreneurs, who would they be? Who makes you up? Is it Gary Vee and Marie Forleo? Is it Gary Vee and Amy Porterfield? Like, even though I don't necessarily think that combo probably goes together, but who is that? What does that look like for you? Okay. So the other thing that I found that I was missing that I actually really liked, was in-person stuff. I used to have so much fun with my coworkers, you guys, so much fun, like ridiculous. Like we would laugh and we had a good time. Like we all really got along really well. Like our little tight knit, like kind of core group of coworkers, and we had a lot of laughs and, we worked our butts off, but it was a fun setting. It was a great atmosphere. And I didn't have that anymore, right? Like, yeah, I can talk to you guys through a computer screen, but it's different. The energy is different. The vibe is different. The feeling is different. It's just different. I talk about, you still get to, the cool thing about working in an online space is you still get to have some connection. You still get to talk to other people who are grown-ups, right? But there's like different tiers. So the first is just posting stuff and communicating via, say, Facebook or Instagram. Then the next level is Facebook Live or Instagram Live or Instagram TV or whatever, where you can talk and then they make a little comment and you can respond. It's almost like having a conversation. Then there's something like a Zoom call, which is pretty good because you get to actually sit and look at each other, have a conversation, and it's almost like real life. And, in somewhere in between there is also a telephone call, which I think is starting to become antiquated, but I still make telephone calls. And then there's in-person events way up here at the top. That's like the top tier of communication. And I think part of that, in my opinion, is that when you touch somebody, like you shake somebody's hand, you give them a hug, your brain releases chemicals to make you feel happy. That's why, people greet each other with physical touch, because it starts to help concrete, like make that trust kind of come to life. And that's why a lot of people would close a deal with a handshake, right? Because it made them feel good. It made that trust become present. And you can feel people's energy, whether you are woo-woo or not. You can feel other people's energy. It's scientifically proven that we have energy. It can be felt. We are made up of energetic matter. If you think about atoms with protons, neutrons, electrons, that's what our body is made of. So that's kind of the way I like to look at it. Hey, Catherine, thanks for popping on. The thing about that is when you're sitting in somebody else's energy, like have you ever walked into a room? Think about it like this. Have you ever walked into a room and you're like, ooh, and this isn't anything uncommon. You're like, I could cut the tension with a knife, because you just walk in and you just feel this oomph of heavy, yucky ickiness, right? And it's just, whoa. And that's the only way you can describe it, is cutting the tension with a knife, because, you're just, that energy is so thick that you can feel it. Coffee break. Sorry, guys. But there's also other times when you just are having such a great time. Everybody's having a great time. Everybody's up leveling. Everybody's connecting. Everybody's getting to know each other. And you leave just buzzing. So completely the opposite of I could cut the energy with a knife. You leave so like happy I always call it the high vibe hangover. And I don't mean hangover in a bad way. I mean, like, you are just buzzing. For me, it's like days, weeks. Like, I always do my best work. I always do my best, financially with sales after an in-person event, whether it's one that I've hosted or one that I've attended, right? So having that connection. Well, for the first year of my business, I didn't do anything really in person. Went to two in-person things. That was it. That was it, you guys. In a period of 9 months, I left my house for work two times. And I'm glad that I did, because both of those times led me to here. The first time I met Julia, who is my mentor now with Doterra. The second time I really got to first meet Nicole, who was like one of my like solid, legit best friends. And that's important. So, but now I crave that. And I know a lot of the women who have been to my VIP days and my VIP weekends and my in-person events also crave that community and that level of connection. And for me, it's fun. So one of the things that I was doing is I was just like in work mode. I had like the blinders on, right? Everybody always says, put your blinders on, stay in your lane. Yeah, that's great. Meaning, don't get distracted by all the shiny objects, right? Follow your course and keep true to your desires and to your goal. But for me, it was I had to take the blinders off. I had to step out of hustle mode, right? I feel like I hustled myself into burnout. And it was because I was doing all these things like, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. My coach told me this is the way to do this. And this coach told me this. And this coach told me this. And I have to implement all of these things before I can ... like before I can start to eat healthy, before I hire a personal trainer, before I take the horse riding lessons, before I take the ballroom dancing classes, before I do all the fun things, right? Like there were times where I would sit in this very office where I am right now, and I would drink coffee all day long. And then I'd be like, oh crap, I didn't eat anything today. And yeah, I know it. I can hear some of you guys like gasping now as I'm saying the words like, Amie, you know better. You're a nutritionist. You're certified nutritionist. Like, what were you thinking? Well, I wasn't thinking. I was just so like focused. I was, like I said, I had the blinders on and I was so caught up in getting those tasks done. And that comes partly from, having the work ethic that I had at my corporate job. It comes partly from wanting to get the things done, partly from just being a type A personality. There's a lot of things that kind of go into it, right? And then over this year, right, 2019, I started to, step more into like the feminine side of things, into the woo-woo side of things, if you will, and really start to kind of understand, like, okay, does this really feel good to me? Is this hard? Why is it hard? It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be hard to want to, share something or create something. And I put so much pressure on myself to create all these things because, these things were working for me. They were working for my business. So I needed to share those with other people. And I did it because I knew that could help my clients, but it wasn't something, all the things weren't something that people necessarily were like quite as excited about as I was. Like, for example, I am in love with my Pinterest course. It's amazing. I've gotten stellar feedback, stellar reviews, testimonials, all of that. But not everybody sees Pinterest in the way that I see Pinterest, right? Not everybody, everybody pretty much uses Pinterest for the most part, right? And they use it for recipes, and they use it, as their search engine for all these things when they need it, when they're trying to plan something out. But they don't actually get the correlation of how that can help their business grow. And so for them, they're like, I don't need that, right? So I didn't have as much, selling success as I thought I would with the course. But that's also on me because I didn't present the value of how easy it was to actually implement this and how much visibility you could actually get. And, people are like, well, if you get 2 million viewers, what does that mean exactly for, how can you track that? What are the metrics? And, like how many of those people actually converted? And Pinterest they don't really have a way, they don't have like a pixel. So it's really kind of hard to say exactly how many people came from Pinterest. And so some people are like, until I can track it, I don't want to do it, which all those things are great. And without getting too far off on a tangent, you get to creating things and then it kind of fizzles out. Or some things just are a complete total flop. Some things are super, super successful. Like my Mom's Making Money Mastermind, where I've created the Recipe for Success coursework. That's been my best selling offer. And it's been the most fun for me because I get to talk to people. I get to interact with people. I get to invite these people, these ladies, to VIP days and have these wonderful experiences. And that's what I like. I like that connection. I like watching people flourish and grow and develop over time. And I find that that's fun. The other thing that I also wasn't doing is I wasn't sleeping. Probably now looking back, part of that is because I was drinking coffee all damn day. The other part of it is, I wouldn't turn my mind off. I would just allow myself sitting there all like caffeine, like super caffeinated. And I would allow myself to like reel over and over and over about all the things like, well, you got to do this next and you got to do this next. And then after that's a webinar. And then after that, you really have to think about your nurture sequence. And I just kind of, allowed all of the things, all of the steps, all of the strategy to consume me almost to a fault. And with this came, the lack of self-care, meaning I wasn't taking my vitamins. I wasn't drinking enough water. I wasn't moving my body enough because I was sitting here in this chair working away, creating courses, creating things. And I wasn't doing the self-care stuff, and when I say self-care, I'm not talking about, bubble baths and champagne. I'm not talking about, $300 pedicures. Like, I love getting a good pedicure. And I think that's great. I love getting massages and I think they're wonderful and so useful and so helpful. But I'm talking about like the basic self-care stuff, like washing my face before I went to bed, taking my vitamins every day, eating food at regular increments when I was hungry instead of just, covering those up with coffee all day. And I think a lot of people do this. And what happens, and I've heard this from so many friends in the entrepreneurial space, some clients, just kind of across the board, that oh, ever since I became a business owner, I've gained 30 pounds. And it seems like 30 is really kind of close to that magic number. And with the exception of some of my health coaches, but and some of them were once health coaches, and they kind of have, health coaching kind of trauma, if you will, and they don't want to go back to that. They're like, oh, I just can't. And I feel that I totally can relate to that. So with that comes anxiety, right? Part of that comes from the coffee. I'm down to like 1 or 2 cups of coffee now instead of like a whole pot of coffee, by the way. And with that anxiety comes like shortness, and by shortness, I mean, like, you're like, I just got to get this done. Just a second. But I found that I was doing that, like, just in general, even with my kids. And for me, that wasn't okay. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't taking the time to celebrate any of the wins, right? Like I wasn't doing anything, right? It was just next, onto the next thing, because that's just, that was like the employee mindset part of me that was like, okay, this job's done, onto the next one, onto the next bid. Let's get it out, get that project going, get that project started, all those things. And then I had the lack of being fully present, which then circled back around, giving me anxiety. So it was like this vicious circle, and all the roads led back to me feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to have a panic attack. I'm going to have an anxiety attack. And that doesn't make you feel very good. Because then you're like, oh my God, I'm always on. I'm always thinking about things. And, even like Catherine, you're watching, I would think of something and like at random, and I would create a video for you, or I would send you a private message like, hey, I just thought of this, or I saw something and it made me think of you. And that part of being always on, I don't typically mind, because if I see something that gives me an idea or inspiration, I'm happy to share that. But I still was lacking being kind of fully present, then going back to that anxiety. And then that kind of led me to feel like I had failed, even though I hadn't. I would be at like, oh, I just, had a $13,000 day in sales. And I would announce that, and it would be like, oh, okay, yeah, I got that. And then it's like, okay, next, back to anxiety. And then, it never felt good. It never felt exciting, longer than like, yay, this just happened. And then it was like, okay, back to the grind, back to the anxiety. And so sometimes when you are in that cycle of anxiety, at least for me, you never really feel accomplished. You never really feel like you've done it or made it or whatever. And you're still seeking and searching. There are 2 reasons for this. One is because you feel like shit. And the other is maybe you're out of alignment. Maybe there's something else that's more exciting for you, that you get more excited about, which I'll get to that later. Hold on. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. Alignment. So I went through feeling all of these things. I went through feeling like crap for a good solid 1.5 years, going on 2 years. And I finally decided, like, okay, this way of going is not going to be good. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had high cholesterol. Well, here's the thing. I was eating like crap because I'd go all day without eating, then I'd be starving, and then I would eat anything, and that wasn't typically my way. Like I said, I'm a nutritionist that was the first thing I ever studied in school, was holistic health and nutrition and herbology and essential oils and aromatherapy. That's what I studied the first time I went to school. Before I even went to business school or to San Diego State for project management, that's what I studied. So I know better. And, which is funny because as I talked to like my naturopathic doctor, and I actually sought out a naturopathic nutritionist too, who's helping me out. And they're like, oh yeah, it's really common. It's really common for people, kind of like if you're a car mechanic, or what do they say? The shoe cobbler's kids always get their shoes last, or something like that. I feel like it was kind of like that. And even though I love this, I don't want to say this in a way that sounds like condescending or that I'm being ungrateful or anything. I love my business. I love the courses that I've created. I love sharing those with other people. I love, excuse me, I feel like I have to sneeze. I love the connection that I've made with everybody in this journey so far. And I'm so happy that I did it. I know that this is the path that was meant to be taken. There are lots and lots of lessons that I've learned along the way. Some of those lessons I'm sure have not been revealed yet. But then I started getting back into, I started to see a naturopathic doctor towards the end of 2018. And she's like, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this. And so I tried a few things, but then I would get busy and fall off. I didn't have that. I wasn't all in, right? So even Kimberly, who does my number chart and my astrology, she told me, like, she's like, it is in your chart that you are an all or nothing kind of gal. Like, if you're not all in, you're out. So for me, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Right. And it took me a long time to realize that about myself. And so I would dabble with something and then get busy, go back to drinking the coffee, and then, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. How many of you guys have ever been on the tomorrow diet or the Monday diet, or, what? And I say diet, it could be, your to-do list or whatever. Well, that was me, because I'm like, I have to get these things done first. And I put my business first instead of putting my health and everything else first. And so I finally decided I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, I suddenly, out of nowhere, like I said, I have elevated cholesterol. I have elevated levels on like the scale. I'm like, what in the hell is happening to me here? And it's not something I'm proud of, and it really it kind of just like hit me like, okay, now I see what they're talking about. I see what some of these mentors who are out there talking about burnout. I thought that burnout wasn't going to happen to me because I'd been such a hustler in the workplace. I was like, there's no way that's going to happen to me. Well, one of the good things about working in a workplace is you have to stop and take lunch. You have to stop and take breaks. Like, the law says you have to, and most employers make sure that you do. When you work for yourself, none of that, all that goes out the window, right? All of it. And you get to do whatever the hell you want, however the hell you want, which is partly why you became an entrepreneur. But you don't necessarily stop for lunch. You just get so, at least for me, I get so like tunnel vision, get so focused and like, yeah, I'm just going to get this done. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to finish this. I only have a few short days where both of the boys are actually at school to do something like record in the quiet or, whatever. And so I was utilizing all of that time and not putting any time in there for self-care, not putting any time in there for meditation or massage or Reiki or anything really fun, for just fun. I finally got to the point I was like, and I know, Catherine, you and I have talked about this. I got to the point where I was like, what do I even do that's fun? Like, for myself, like, I couldn't come up with anything that I did by myself for fun. So I finally just, I talked to my husband about it and he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, like you go to hockey and you play because you really enjoy it. You like to, it's physical activity, but it's not going to the gym. Because for me, going to the gym at this point in my life is not fun. It's a chore. And so I wanted to find something that was fun, that I enjoyed. And so there were two things that I found so far. Is one, I take a horse lesson, right? I go and ride somebody else's horse just to give me confidence in the saddle because I'm new, but I really love my horses and it's a passion. The other thing I decided to start doing was taking a ballroom dance class. It's something I always wanted to do. I always loved dance when I was growing up and on the dance team and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to bring that back into my life. Both of those things I also count as my workout because they're really hard work physically and you break a sweat and all that good stuff. So bringing fun and joy and all that back in has really shifted things for me. I've done more in-person stuff this year, like way more, way more. And it's just, I don't know, it's just really shifted everything for me to have all these new connections, have these new friends, these new, I don't know, just this new community almost. And people who get it, people who get what you're going through, who understand what it's like to feel kind of burnt out, whether it's in your business or in your just overall in general, in your job, whatever. And how that makes you kind of have that kind of cycle of anxiety. And then maybe you're being short with your kids and then you feel guilty and that gives you anxiety. You're not being present with your kids because you're like, hold on just a second. Let me just get this email out. And then you have anxiety because you feel guilty. It just kind of goes round and round and round. And the cycle doesn't stop until we decide that we're going to put our foot on the brake and be like, whoa, it's time to stop. It's time to rein this back in. So that's what I've done. And part of doing this episode is also, and actually this whole series and revamping the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise community, that's my accountability for myself. Sharing this journey with you guys publicly with hundreds and thousands of people, it's a big deal to, because here I am. And if I quit and somebody's like, so how's that going? It's like, I know that all of you guys listening and all of you guys here watching know. So some of the things that I've done, I've hired a naturopath. I've done every kind of blood test. And it's not because I'm anti-medical doctor. It's just that I wasn't getting anywhere with my medical doctor. I went to a local place here that's well known. They're part of a hospital chain. Saw my regular doctor. And she's like, oh, let's do some tests. Let's do some tests. Let's do some tests. I think I took blood tests with her probably 5 times in 3 months to check cortisol, cholesterol, and hormones. And she did nothing. She's like, well, we can keep testing and then maybe send you to an endocrinologist. Okay. So I took those tests and I went to a naturopath and she's like, whoa, like this stuff is not normal. I had basically so besides like the self-inflicted stuff leading to anxiety, I had other things that made me feel anxious, like internally, chemically in my body. One of those is the fact that my body was producing pretty much 0 progesterone, which is like your chill out hormone. So now I have that and I take a bioidentical progesterone. The other thing is that I had like candida buildup and I still may, because I don't know. And so we worked on getting that down. Having candida and leaky gut and all of that can really increase your levels of anxiety and it also wreak havoc in a ton of other ways. So we had a protocol for that as well. The other thing is that my cortisol levels were off. And, I don't remember, I think they were elevated. I think that's what it was. And it showed levels of like adrenal fatigue. So all of that, she was like, is basically like a triple threat of anxiety. She's like, you get anxiety, added anxiety built up with all of those things. She's like, you have all 3 of those things happening all at once. And she's like, you're basically a hot mess. She's like, I don't know really what else to tell you. So we started more testing and I did a food sensitivity test. And of course, the candida was off the charts. My gluten, I'm super sensitive to gluten, which sucks because I love bread. I think everybody loves bread and dairy, which extra sucks because, cheese and coffee creamer and all the things. So, and at that time I had been dabbling with the keto diet. So, which I call the delicious diet. And I was eating cheese all day long and putting heavy cream in my coffee, which I still love. I love heavy cream in my coffee, but I no longer use it. So there are those things. And then I started off really good, started off strong, started to lose some weight. And then I got back into launch mode. Then I got back into creation mode and I let that fall to the wayside again. And that's on me. That's completely on me. And then finally I just decided I don't want to do this anymore. And I went and saw a naturopathic nutritionist who specializes in leaky gut and the GAPS diet, which is gut and psychological health, how they're tied together, which I'm super interested in. For those of you guys who know me, you know that I'm like a super science geek. I love all the science behind all the things, which is partly why I love like essential oil so much, because I love the science and I love how, a monoterpene helps your body with this and, all the anyways, I won't get into that. This is not Bill Nye the Science Guy show. So she ordered more tests. And all these tests are from a company, all except for one, from a company called Great Plains. So you can order these tests on your own. You have to pay for them directly because insurance doesn't cover them. But I also did a hair sample test. I'd like cut pieces of my hair out, and which I wasn't really happy about, but luckily you have more hair than you think you do. So it wasn't that big of a deal. So I did a mold spore test to see what kind, because I've had exposure to mold. Like one of the houses that I lived in, the walls were moldy. Another house that I lived in had a flood. And even though I, had it all the floors torn out and the drywall replaced, she's like, you still had that exposure. So we're just trying to see what's left in your body, right? Growing up around, farms in Idaho, I guess, they spray antifungals on potatoes and that kind of blows in the air. And we weren't very far from these farms, just all kinds of different things. So we did that. We did a heavy metal test, which I'm a vaccinated human. I didn't get into any sort of awareness around vaccines until just recently. So I'm sure I have heavy metals in my body. So I'll be breaking out some extra cilantro oil to help flush those out, my DDR prime, from Doterra. And then I'm also doing what is called an organic acid test. I have no idea what that is. I will let you guys know in a future episode. I see her next week. So I will let you guys know as soon as I figure out what that is and what that means and where all of this brings me. But in the meantime, I've gone back to a paleo type of diet, non-dairy creamer in my coffee. I got one of those almond cow things, so I make my own nut cream type of stuff. You guys see this congestion I've been having is one, because the wind is blowing like crazy here the last few weeks, and two, because I did have some dairy last week. And this is the residual effect of that. So some of the supplements that I've been taking, I got all of my doTERRA supplements approved, my LLV, which is the lifelong vitality, the DDR prime, which is a cellular support. And then obviously like the ones I use for immunity, thank God that she approved those because I've been taking those while my child and my husband were throwing up all weekend, and knock on wood, I didn't catch it. I also take the prescription that I have for the progesterone, the bioidentical. And we've been trying to find where I can get a compounding pharmacy to give me vitamin D. That was another thing that I was like out. My body was just like always under, which turns out that leaky gut and not being able to absorb and metabolize vitamin D could be part of the problem. So we're looking for like a place either close by where I could get vitamin D injections every week, or a place that would send them home. I've yet to find that. And the other thing that I take, I call them my Jetson caps. I feel like I'm part of the Jetsons. You guys remember that cartoon, the Jetsons? They're little fruit and veggie, like freeze-dried fruits and vegetable caps that I get from my girl Kim. So if you guys want more information about that, Kim Monday, you can find her on my friends list. They're Juice Plus. They are just fruits and vegetables dried up. So that's it. There's just fruits and vegetables. So I take those also to give me more nutrients. So the doTERRA supplements have 12 fruits and vegetables. These ones have 22. So I feel like even though I've been doing a crappy job eating right, now that I'm back on that, I'm getting in these extra like actual nutrients, as well as the support from the doTERRA supplements and even the essential oils that I'm using and the oils that are in the supplements. I'm feeling really, really supported. And I'm starting to feel really good, actually. With this, I did a ton of mindset work, a ton. Like I had this realization that I'm going to be doing some shifting in my business. I'm not going to be creating any courses anytime soon. I feel like I have a lot of courses created. Some of them may need updates if technology changes or whatever, but I'm not going to be creating anything new anytime soon. And that takes a lot of pressure off of me. And I'm just going to do the things that I like to do. I'm going to run my mastermind because I love that. And I'm going to run my essential oils business because that's something that I'm super passionate about sharing with people, super passionate about geeking out about the science, and that doesn't feel hard to me. Learning about that, sharing about that, talking about that, that makes me excited. It doesn't feel hard to me. Talking about business in my mastermind, talking about confidence in my mastermind, talking about like breaking through these barriers with my clients and my friends in the mastermind, that's not hard for me. That's what I really love. So instead of forcing myself to think about like, oh, you should create another course. If you're a business coach, you have to have a course on branding. You have to have a coach on money. You have to have a coach on, or a class on this. I'm not doing any of that anymore. And it feels so good. It feels so light, and it feels so easy. And with that has come some abundance. And my doTERRA team that I just decided to start utilizing doTERRA. And because I love it, I decided, well, I'm going to share this and I'm going to get paid for it. And I have zero guilt or shame about that. Like I said, I've always said I love and support MLMs. This one just happens to be my favorite. So, so that's the one I chose to team up with. And, even Juice Plus, I use their stuff. It's great. And I order it from my friend. I'm all about supporting my friends. I'm all about supporting my clients. I'm all about supporting other women. And I love it. I just absolutely love it. So, now I'm kind of marrying these two businesses together. I have my mastermind for girls who are, and I mean women when I say girls, who are outside of, in other MLMs, who are starting their own life coaching business, who are doing other types of things, whether it's a brick and mortar business, which I do have some clients who are brick and mortar, or it's, you're joining me over here and getting all of those resources on the doTERRA side of things. It's been amazing. Just the realization that like, oh my God, I can do both. I can be true to who I actually am. I don't have to show up like this person over here because they're successful. I don't have to do it that way. I can just take what I like, take what I love, share how I want to share, show up in my own goofy way, and just have fun with it. Let my passion flow. And the right people will filter themselves in. It's like Gary Vee says, let the pieces fall as they may, because not everybody's going to love everybody. And I don't think that we're designed for that. So that's all I have for today's episode. If anybody has any questions, feel free to post those in the comments or leave a review in the show. I would love to hear your guys' 5-star review and how this might be part of your journey and part of your story as well. All right, everybody, I'll talk to you guys later.